Although these people were not saints, one cannot help but admire their influence and talents, albeit directed in the wrong direction. Let's talk about the most famous mafiosi. Pablo Escobar, born December 1, 1949, Rio Negro, Colombia. Gangster nicknames: Doctor, Patron, Don Pablo. Senor Pablo Escobar is a gangster who lived relatively recently. Also known as the King of Cocaine, Escobar led the Medellin cartel. He was an incredibly powerful drug king who ruled a vast empire between the 1970s and 1980s of the 20th century. This continued until the end of 1993, when he was shot dead. Until now, there is no exact information whether it was a suicide or he was killed by the police. The history of his death remains a mystery. A few years before his death, he was recognized as one of the most physically fit criminals in the world. According to Forbes magazine, his fortune was estimated at $3 billion. To this day, he is one of the most famous, cruel, and wealthy criminals in history. Frank Costello, American gangster of Italian origin. Nicknamed the Prime Minister of Crime, he was one of the most powerful and influential mafia bosses in the United States. For a long time he headed the Luciano family, later called the Genovese family. Born January 26, 1891, Italy, Calabria, Cosano alla Ionio. Died February 18, 1973, aged 82, USA, Manhattan, New York. Gangster nickname: Frank. First Minister Costello in Italy. The boy was born under the name of Francesco Castiglia. At the age of 4, his family moved to New York. He grew up on the violent streets of New York during the very difficult years of the economic crisis. In the future, through a series of events, he will become one of the most famous gangsters of all time. Frank Costello, the name he later adopted, was childhood friends with fellow gangster Charlie Luciano. Subsequently, Costello earned a reputation in the gangster world and amassed a large fortune in liquor smuggling, gambling, participating in several large New York gangs, the Morello Gang, the Lower East Side Gang, and joint affairs with the Luciano family. Carlo Gambino, an American mobster of Sicilian origin who became the boss of one of the 5 families of the Italian-American Mafia of New York, named after him the Gambino family. After a conference of mafia bosses in Appalachian on November 14, 1957, he seized control of the so-called U.S. Cosa Nostra Commission. Gambino was known for his restraint and secretiveness. After spending 22 months in prison, Gambino managed to get away with his illegal activities and died in his own bed of a heart attack at the age of 74. Gambino was a real gangster, flesh and blood. He was born inside one of the Sicilian mafia families. Therefore, it is not surprising that he began to take part in family affairs from an early age. At the age of 19, he had already become a full member of the gang, which was very unusual. Such young members had never been accepted into the family. At the same time, he moved to New York. Meyer Lansky, American major, Jewish-American criminal figure who, along with his associate Charles Lucky Luciano, was instrumental in founding the National Crime Syndicate in the United States. Born July 4, 1902, Grodno, Lithuanian Governor-General, Russian Empire. Died January 15, 1983, aged 80, Miami Beach, Florida, USA. Children: Paul Lansky, Sandra Lansky Lombardo, Buddy Lansky. Gangster nickname: Accountant. Meyer Lansky is one of the few famous gangsters born outside the US, England, or Italy. He was born under the name Meyer Sokovliansky in Belarus and moved to New York with his family at the age of 9. Lansky started out with the Bugs and Meyer mob in the National Crime Syndicate. Lansky's forte is finance and gambling houses. He built a huge gambling empire that spread its branches all over the world. He also managed to involve Swiss banks in his dirty deals. Lansky is known for his incredible intelligence and is recognized as the most cunning and quirky gangster of all time. This is evidenced by the fact that Lansky did not spend a single day behind bars. And this was a common thing for most gangsters. Bugsy Siegel, famous in the 1920s to 1940s, an American gangster of Jewish origin. He was killed on the orders of criminal bosses. Born February 28, 1906, Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Died June 20, 1947, aged 41, Beverly Hills. Married to Esta Krakower, 1929 to 1946. Partners: Wendy Berry, Virginia Hill. Children: Millicent Siegel, Barbara Siegel. Gangster nickname: born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Bugsy Benjamin Cheadle earned his moniker Bugsy due to his unpredictable nature. He was very powerful and was involved with Meyer Lansky's Murder Incorporated gang and also worked with the Luciano family. His specialty is the sale of illegal alcohol and contract killings. However, he left a memory of himself, which is connected not only with his criminal deeds. Flamingo is one of the very first casinos built in Las Vegas, and Chagall invested in its construction. Thanks to this, he had many famous friends and acquaintances: singer Frank Sinatra, actors Clark Gable and Gary Grant. He was certainly a man with two different sides of his nature, a gangster and, meanwhile, a man from high society. But still, his sworn enemies got him and he was killed in 1947. His death remains mysterious to this day, and his life is an exciting detective story.